Okay, this is your history lesson for today. What we'd like to do is we'd like you to use evidence to build up a picture of the life in the time that we're studying. Now, of course, we're studying the Industrial Revolution, aren't we? And the evidence I'm going to present to you is all pictorial. It's all paintings from the time, funnily enough. And I'd like you to sort of examine the causes and results of these great events and the impact on people. Now that sounds a bit posh, but all it actually means is, so the Industrial Revolution, right, what impact did it have on people? This great event, which happened over many, many years, what was the outcome for people? What changed for people? So that's what we're looking at today. We're going to look at it, what was it like, and how did this change for people? This is just one aspect of it, really. So let's have a look at the pictures. First of all, though, I'd like you to have a look at two videos that accompany this lesson. Now, they are in the links alongside the video, as you know, so you can watch them. You can watch them again and again and again, but they basically tell you a rough overview of before to after and what happened, the process of before and after. So have a look at those two videos. Pause this video here. Video. Pause this video here. Go and watch those two. The links are outside, so you don't have to worry about clicking on this one here. And then when you're ready, come back and we'll look at the pictures together of the landscapes. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you've watched those two videos. And they're quite good fun, aren't they, really? They're nice little videos. Now what I want you to do is I want you to have a look at this wonderful landscape picture. So this is clearly before the Industrial Revolution, and this is a view from a hill, and it's up in the north of England. And I want you to think about what you can see. What can you see at this point in time? What is the landscape? What is it? Is it a rural landscape? Is it a farming landscape? Is it an industrial landscape? What sort of landscape is this? What can you see? Well, I can see a river snaking its way across the countryside. I can definitely see trees, lots of green. I can see a couple of people here sitting in the foreground. It's quite an open countryside, isn't it? Would you like it here? Why would you like it here? And if you don't like it here, why not? Is there nothing to do? Would you be bored? I don't know. So have a think about that. Have a good look at that picture, because you're going to be asked to describe what you see and what it's like before the Industrial Revolution. So, and I'd also like you to really think about whether you'd like it here or not. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Everyone has their own preferences. Personally, I think that's wonderful, but it doesn't mean that my opinion has to be your opinion. Okay, when you've had a really good think about that, have a look at the next slide, which is this one. Now, oddly, this is actually the same place, just from slightly further right round on the hill. This is the same place a few years later. Okay, because you can still see the river, and you've still got this hill here, and there's still two people sitting on it. I don't think they've been sitting here all this time, to be honest with you. I think they've actually different people, because this is a few years later, isn't it? Now this time, what can you see? How far can you see? What is this landscape? We've got the fields and the hills and a couple of sheep in the foreground here with us, but as you go further into the distance, it's changed very, very much, hasn't it? What can you see now? So have a think about that. And if we were to describe this landscape, what sort of landscape would we describe it as? Industrial? Urban? What would you call it? And then I want you to think, would you like it here? Would you like it down in that town? Would you like to live in a town like that? Now, some people do. I know people who can't bear being in the countryside. They love being in the town. They love the hustle and the bustle and the busyness and the things that the fact that everything's on their doorstep, they can just go out and pick something up and get on with it. So you've got to decide which perhaps is your favourite landscape. Where would you like to have lived? Which one would you like to have been in? You've got to remember that in the first landscape, the jobs are all rural jobs. They're all cottage industries, like it said in the video. You've got people doing very small scale making. So they might be spinning on one wheel or knitting or weaving on one loom and producing things very slowly. They might be working in the fields. They might be looking after animals. They might be creating, growing cereals to cut down, to sell. You've got to think about, what about the jobs here? Now you've got people in factories, people working in shops, people selling things, people busy. They've all got employment. And the fact that the production is making things for them to use too. So it's easy to get hold of stuff. Perhaps in the first landscape, when everything's slow to use, slow to make and slow to get to, maybe it's not so easy to go and get things and acquire what you want. But this landscape, I think you're going to acquire things a lot easier, aren't you? You're going to have tradesmen who are selling things, and you can get things easily here. So would you like it here? Which one would you like in? Which would you like to live in? Then I want you to think about what's the impact on the landscape and the people, because this is what we're looking at today, isn't it? What impact did it have on these people? Well, I think we've touched on a few of those already. So although you've got in the first instant, before all these houses and factories were built, you've got a slower way of life, which seems to be a bit more peaceful. Although I can tell you right now, living on a farm is not peaceful. But now, what's the impact here? You can get things, can't you? You can buy things, you can work, you can earn a living because there are jobs for you to go to, there's things for you to do. But then there's the other side to it. You know, you look at that smoke in that picture. Is that a healthy place to be? Which is the healthier landscape, before or after? You know, you've got to think about that as well. What about overcrowding? Is there too many people? What about the danger of some of the jobs? Now, I know we're going to go into the workforce and women and children working in places, factories and mines, but I just want you to think now, just briefly, before we go into that in a future lesson, you know, was it a dangerous place for children to be? You've got all these trains and carts and bustle. Do people notice little children running around the place? You know, are they looked after well, or are their parents working so hard they haven't got chance? Because this is this is before all the laws that said about looking after children and looking after the workforce. Okay, so this landscape, this new industrial landscape, has had an impact on people. It's changed their lives, hasn't it? It's changed their lives from that rural, steady cottage industry to this busy, productive workplace where you can get things, but it's going to cost you. And is it safe for them? I don't know. You've got to remember there's got to be advantages and disadvantages to every part of this. So two very different landscapes. I don't know which one you'd prefer. So here is your activity for today. I'd like you to compare the two landscapes. I've given you some ideas. I've talked a bit about it, but I think if you really get into it and take your time, you can think of a lot more things to say than I've just said quickly on here. I'd like you to write a little paragraph about each one, what it looks like, just what it looks like. So describe that first picture. Describe it, this one here, with what can you see? Okay, so have a look at that and describe that. Then I want you to describe this one and say what you can see, just what you can see. Don't say what you can feel at this point, okay? And then just say briefly, what's the difference? What's the main difference between these two pictures? Okay, and why? Why is that? Why is it a difference? Why is it different now? So just a short paragraph about each, and then a why, just very short. Then I want you to put another subheading, and I want you to put the advantages. Now, what are the advantages of living in that first landscape? What are the advantages of living here? What can you see as the benefits of living in this landscape? What would be good about being here? Pace of life, clean air, many other things. Okay, what would be the good thing about living here? Then I want you to think about what's the good things about living here? What's a good thing about having this town? I think I've mentioned a few, but you could probably think of more. Then I want you to put a subheading, disadvantages. And I want you to think, what isn't so good about living here? What's not so good about this here? But you were living there, what would you not have, or what would be not so good about anything? And, you know, what wouldn't you like about it? What are the disadvantages? And then what are the disadvantages of this landscape? So that's under the heading disadvantages, okay? When you've done that, I'd like you to say, this is your opinion, so no one can influence you here. Which one would you prefer to live in and why? Which one would you prefer to live in and why? And then this is really getting to the heart of what we're looking at today as our objective. What is the impact on the people in the second picture? What have they got now that they didn't have before? What's changed for these people? So that's good things and bad things, remember. So a sentence on that. What's different for them? What's changed for them? What has impacted on their lives now because of this change in the landscape? Okay. So stop the video here and have a go at that. You can pause it on this screen and have a look at that, at those subheadings. Okay, so this is history, the Industrial Revolution as your main heading, and then you've got description of each landscape, you've got the advantages, you've got the disadvantages, and your preference. Now, it's not a long piece, but it does require you to think an awful lot, so keep going back to the pictures, study them. We've put the pictures outside the video as well, so they don't go blurry if you pause the video. So you can click on those and enlarge them, have a really good search around them. And then if you finish that and you want to do some extra and have a challenge, I'd like you to look at one more picture, which is of a local place, actually. So when you finish that activity, if you want to go on, you can. So stop the video here to do your activity. And when you're ready, play on to look at the extension. Okay. This is an image of Colebrook Dale. Now, Colebrook Dale, of course, as you know, is in Ironbridge, so it's not so far away. And of course, we say that's the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. I'd like you to describe this picture. Okay. Now, that's not something burning down. That is the activity, the industrial activity in that valley being painted. It's actually an incredible painting. Colours are stunning, aren't they? You've got those really hot colours of the fire. And then you've got the cold colours of the sky and the earth on the outside. I'd like to say, what can you see? What can you see here? What would you hear if you were in this landscape? What would you feel? Would you feel heat from those furnaces and fires? Would you smell the smoke from the chimneys? And then I want you to think, would you like to live and work here? And if you would, why? And if you wouldn't, why not? So just a paragraph about that picture. What can you see? What would you hear, smell, feel? And would you like to live and work in a landscape like this? Okay, it's an incredible picture though, whether you like it or not. So enjoy that activity. As I say, you don't have to do it. It's just something you should think about to try and get your head into this period of history and what was going on. Okay, so hope you've enjoyed that. And we'll do some more work on the Industrial Revolution in our next history lesson. Well done.